Hey everyone, welcome to our December live stream. We're excited to welcome our special guests from Klipsch that we'll be introducing here in just a moment. So thanks for everyone who is joining us for our December giveaway. We have to admit this is probably one of our largest prizes that we've ever had for one of our giveaways. So we are incredibly excited to share what that is and get rolling. So again, thanks everyone for joining us. Just here's what you can expect for the hour. If you have a question for anyone from Klipsch or the audio advice team, go ahead and put it in the questions below. If you're watching this on YouTube, on Facebook, we can see all those questions coming in. Let us know where you're dialing in from. It's always fun to see everyone from across the country, even across the globe, which is a lot of fun to see. So again, happy holidays to everyone, and thanks for joining us. So I would like to welcome back, actually, Mark Cassavant from Klipsch, as well as Michael Brado from Klipsch. So guys, welcome. Thanks again for joining us. We're excited to have you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely, and welcoming back Leon Shaw, founder and chairman of Audio Advice, just a few years ago, back in 1978 when you started the company. So Leon, welcome back. Great to have you always.
Oh, yeah, stop that.
So what we'll do, Michael, I'll turn it over to you. We're going to put up on the screen what it is that we're giving away because it's quite the package, and we'll let you talk a little bit about what it is that we are going to be giving away here today.
Yeah. So Jonathan, you are absolutely right. This is, probably one of the biggest giveaways I think I've ever seen you guys do. This is a full 5.1.4 reference premier home theater system. So it's a pair of the RP8000F floor standing speakers, the RP404 center channel, big boys, right? Dual 8-inch floors, quad 4.5-inch center channels, RP600M bookshelf speakers as surrounds with RP500SA Dolby Atmos surround speakers for your upfiring Atmos channels. And then the biggest subwoofer we make, the most badass subwoofer we make, excuse the language, the SPL 150, big 15-inch, 800-watt behemoth that will power all the low end on that thing. So you're looking at $5,000 worth of speakers shipped to you for free. So please sign up for that. We're excited to be giving that away. One more secret giveaway we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, for best question, we also have another giveaway. So tell everyone what that is.
Yeah. So Jonathan mentioned, put your questions in the chat. Fire away with those questions, because the best question voted on by our secret panel of judges will receive a pair of RP8060 FAs. So the dual 8-inch Dolby Atmos Klipsch floor standing speakers in the reference Premier line. It doesn't get any better than that. The beautiful walnut finish on those. You're getting true Dolby Atmos performance, horn-loaded Dolby Atmos performance, just like you get in the movie theater. Again, best question is going to win that pair of towers.
Absolutely. So it's almost Christmas, and you guys are giving away a bunch. So we really appreciate it. You guys have been tremendous partners, and we're glad to have you. So just to open up the conversation, just a quick fun question. Mark, I'll start with you. What was the first vinyl record you purchased or given you first listened to?
Oh gosh, the one that I bought with my own money. That's the significant one. It was Leonard Skinner's Street Survivors, and as I recall, it was kind of shortly after the plane crash, so they modified the album cover. Did not have the original album cover. I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, growing up in Central Florida, Southern rock. The influence of my brother, middle brother. So yeah, I rocked it on the Motorola, tube powered, 15-inch. See, Mike, that's where it started. The 15 with the little 3.5-inch woofers, and tweeters. So, but yeah, it was fun. I was relegated to the garage to listen to my hi-fi.
Same question.
Me?
Yep.
Oh, well, I guess I was born after records were made. No, it was a 45. I think it was the Beatles' Please, Please Be and Love Me Do was on the flip side. I remember buying that with my own money for 89 cents. And that was a while ago.
Yeah,
Man.
just a little while back. And Mike, same question to you.
Yeah, my first I think the first record I remember listening to was probably Help or Rubber Soul out of my dad's collection. The first record I bought with my own money was Radiohead's OK Computer. You know, the record that came out in '97, I think, and it just changed how rock and roll sounded. It changed how pop music sounded. So when I got my first turntable, I knew that was going to be the record that I wanted to buy. And it's for a record that's not a lot of acoustic instruments. It's a great. There's some great demo cuts on it. Just very well recorded, great sounding album.
Iconic.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you, John?
I got into vinyl a little bit late in the game. I remember going to the store and I purchased two to start off with, a classic. So the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's, and then one of my favorites from my earlier days was the Fugees, right? So couldn't go wrong with the Fugees. That's been a lot of fun to listen to, and it's been fun to get into vinyl, especially kind of later on in the vinyl renaissance. Leon, I've already got a first question, which is, what are you drinking? Sushil wants to know what it is that you're drinking.
So this is really special. It's an upside down printed Stone Delicious IPA. That is pretty rare to get an upside down printed can.
And where is it from?
Stone is from California, San Diego.
Awesome.
So you drink enough of those, Leon, and it looks totally fine, right?
That's right. You just
You can't tell the difference. Mark, what about you? You got anything?
Yes, this is a little tribute to my 4 brothers-in-law and Pop and Cincy, but this is a Cleveland beer, Great Lakes Christmas Ale, very, very nice seasonal. So,
Yeah, awesome. And then Mike, how about you?
I'm going a little old school. I've got a Coors Banquet, a
The
khaki,
Banquet beer.
as we like to call them. Yeah. You
Is
know.
that inspired by the Cobra Kai?
No,
If you've seen that.
no, but man, that was a pleasant surprise in that show, among others.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I've got a Modelo Especial, so
Nice.
it's crazy, but it's always a classic. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Thanks again for joining us.
cheers.
Let's keep rolling. So tell us,
everybody else.
to Mark and to Mike, first question, in terms of home theater, whether it's the reference package that we're giving away or just home theater in general, tell us about some of the Klipsch design principles, and how those are come to, or gets brought to fruition in the product lines that you guys offer.
Yeah. Mark, I'm gonna pass this to you because you're the most animated and you love the tech stuff as much as anybody.
Oh my gosh. All right. I'll try to keep it succinct. Okay. But so, if you go to the cinema, and the cinema began in, this country in the 30s, in the roaring 20s, when cinema kicked off, and that was people's escape, right? Right after the Depression. I've been watching Fred Astaire movies recently, believe it or not, but and the hi-fi industry was birthed from cinema. But the big sound of the cinema, to go with the big picture, that's why people go to the cinema. It's why people go today. And the big sound at home is what Klipsch is all about. And not just big and loud, but dynamic, refined, catching all the detail, all the dialogue, all the subtlety, absolutely enveloping you and making you forget where you are. And the home cinema experience is what Klipsch is all about. We're also about the professional theater experience. We're about people who put cinemas in their home. We have the large custom cinema systems that are configurable for big scale cinema in your home, as you guys know. And it's a great topic because Klipsch, we do have a unique approach in the marketplace, and when we're talking with our customers, people that bring it home and enjoy it, they may not know immediately, well, why is Klipsch so great for this? And, when you look at a Klipsch, you see the horn-loaded drivers, you see some of the special attention we put to our speaker systems. And the system we're giving away here is kind of the greatest hits of the reference Premier line. I mean, it's all the powerful stuff that we really did develop for the latest home theater technology, which is the Dolby Atmos rendering, in home theater. And it's very interesting because it adjusts to your setup. You don't have to have a particular setup. It just works with whatever you have, and you can build on your system. But the dynamics and the effortlessness, the power, and the absolute immersion of Atmos it requires Klipsch, in my opinion, in my not so humble opinion. You need dynamic, alive speakers, amplifiers that are very clean. And because Klipsch are efficient, we can produce a lot of sound and dynamics with reasonable power. That has a lot of advantages to our hearing mechanism. It really dramatically reduces distortion. It takes distortion out of the picture. The speakers don't work hard. The amplifier doesn't work hard. Your ear doesn't work hard trying to hear all the subtlety and all the nuance and little things in the dialogue, for example, or special effects that are really subtle. The director can really just play with you, and do whatever they intend to with the soundtrack. And just movies, a modern movie experience is just unbelievable. And I would add, gaming is also unbelievable now with Atmos. And a lot of people are using their home theater for home gaming. So you guys know I can go on and on, but that's just that's scratching the surface. Klipsch is uniquely capable of delivering an alive, powerful experience. And by the way, you can crank it up to ridiculous levels and just not even know it sometimes because it's so clean. But then it really has dividends when it's at normal volume. I mean, I have little kids, and we have to watch late at night, and I appreciate the clarity at low volume. So that's it in a nutshell from me. I'll pass it on to Mike or Leon.
Can I touch on something?
Yeah, Leon, jump in.
So I think having that great sense of dynamics. When you're watching a movie, the actors and actresses are portraying emotions, and if you have that great range of dynamics, you can hear all these little micro dynamic changes in their voice that just makes it sound like they're more in the room with you, and you just get drawn into it more. If you have a really inefficient speaker, those don't show up. You don't hear those little subtle volume changes in their voice that draw you into the experience. And Klipsch are super dynamic, and they just do that so well, which and that applies at a low level or a higher level. You still hear those changes, those little tiny microdynamic changes that make it sound more like real life.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I remember
so much. Sorry, Jonathan, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I remember probably it's been maybe 2-3 years ago. We had the chance to come up to Indianapolis to the Klipsch home office and meet with you guys, myself, Leon, in person. And we had just a ton of fun, right? It was a great day listening to all the different that you had at the headquarters there, both in terms of 2-channel audio, home theater gear, and it was just a ton of fun. All those Dolby Atmos tracks, the Mad Max, I think, is the one that really jumped out to me. It was just a ton of fun. I think when you guys were just getting ready to launch the reference Premier line, and it just really, I think, Leon, feel free to jump in, but really blew us away. We were really, really impressed for sure. Mike, feel free to. Didn't mean to cut you off there. Sorry about that.
No. I was going to mention, Leon. That's such a good point about the wide dynamic range. We talk so much about action movies and these, scenes from John Wick or scenes from Saving Private Ryan, and those are great ways to. Yeah, got you there, Mark. Those are great ways to show off a home theater system, but they're not necessarily what you're watching every day. And what you're watching every day can be anything from John Wick to, terms of endearment. I don't know. But, if you're watching a drama, you want to really be brought into that scene. And like you said, the actors really performing their craft. There's a lot of physicality there, and there's a lot of tone of voice. And like you said, these sort of micro, I forgot what you called them, micro action. Microdynamics.
Yeah. The Robert De Niro movie, The Italian, that thing that's on Netflix. That's great example because he's got all these scenes there where he's just changing his voice just a little bit, and you're like, oh man, on a great system, he's there in the room with you.
Yeah, man, we've been watching the West Wing quite a bit recently, which is that old, that drama, that Aaron Sorkin drama from the early 2000s, and there's a lot of that too, a lot of like close-up shots with very subtle changes in dialogue, and it's been interesting to see on a big home theater.
Last question, and then we'll open up to the audience questions, which we've already got a lot of those questions coming in, and we're going to get through as many of those as we can. I'm sure someone will ask, but what is give us a couple of your go-to home theater demo tracks, whether it's the big explosive movie or whether maybe it's a live performance. One of mine is watching Norah Jones live, in front of the piano, which is great to hear.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously the big explosions, Ready Player One, that first race scene at the beginning of the movie is a great one. So tell us some of your favorites. Mark, we'll start with you.
Well, I try to change it up a little bit because, I get pegged for some scenes that I do prefer. I get in trouble sometimes with them, tend to be a little bit more violent than, so I'm trying to go to the family safe demos, but I found that this is a very fun movie, Ford v Ferrari. The scenes on the track, if you're a car guy, you're going to love it too. But it's interesting history, of Carroll Shelby and, all the Ford people back in the day who, launching of the Mustang. And so anyway, and Le Mans, the history of and Ferrari. And I mean, it's just, I love it. But the sound and the picture, it's fantastic. It's not just Dolby Atmos, but it's Dolby Vision. So it really delivers a nice cinematic feel. Very nice. Now, if you are into, I want a lot of action, throw it at me, give it to me, and if you want to get a little bit of, American history while you're at it, this is really well done. Midway, it's a better Pearl Harbor than Pearl Harbor. I won't get into it. We won't talk about the actors and the plot, Titanic version of
Mark,
Pearl Harbor.
I've seen that watched that movie four times.
This is fantastic. I mean, it covers Doolittle. It covers, the Pacific Theater, Coral Sea, all that stuff. And oh my goodness, the sound and the action and the dynamics, fantastic, start to finish. I watched it with my daughter. She loved it. She was just like, Dad, this is great. Bit of history. So I'll stop there. I've got a few more. I always have a few more, but I will add this. And this is for our audience. It is that time of year. And this is a DVD. This is a DVD, right? So here's what I'll say about new home theater, and maybe you have a newer AV receiver that will do Atmos, Dolby Atmos. There's this feature called upmixing. So it'll take a Dolby digital soundtrack. It'll take a PCM, 2-channel. It'll take, I don't know if ProLogic exists anymore, but that's what it used to do with PCM. But now Atmos extracts additional information. It makes older movies, if you're streaming them or if you've got this in your library, you're just not going to believe how good these sound. And, a lot of the players they're obviously upscaling, to a Blu-ray and maybe even UHD level video. So enjoy, everybody. Just bring it all out. And, but, the newer soundtracks, though, are so well done. But if you go back, you can have a lot of fun with the new system.
Yeah. We just, so for everyone on the stream, we just watched Die Hard on HBO Max. The entire entire franchise is on HBO Max. So I think it's just 5.1. I don't think it's Atmos, but it's a good rewatch every year, every Christmas, man. Got to do it.
I think some folks would ask, why is it a Christmas movie? It just is, right?
Yeah.
Leon, your thoughts?
So I totally agree with Mark. When the aircraft carrier first comes in on Midway, and if you have good subwoofers, your pants legs are literally moving. It's amazing. But my favorite cut is, of course, this concert video, and it has to be widescreen. It's in 240. It's Roger Waters' The Wall. It was one of the first Atmos concert videos. And there's a scene where he's in a World War II memorial cemetery, and he pulls out a trumpet. He's playing the trumpet. and it's really quiet. And that's another one of those subtle emotional things. You can hear the little tiny changes in volume of the trumpet. And then this B-52 bomber comes over your head, full atmos, that cuts to the concert scene with all these explosions. Every time I play that for someone, they are jumping out of their chair. That's a great cut. That's my favorite theater demo cut because it does music, does action, does little tiny changes. It's really good.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's cool.
Great. All right, we'll get into all the audience questions here. So first question, actually, Mark, everybody wants to know what's your system that you have behind you there.
It's more than my power panel can handle. I kept to make sure I don't turn it all on at once. It's a little absurd. It's funny because I have a desk in here. I've had it in here for years, and why do I have a desk in my theater room? And this is on the first floor. It's just off the garage. So I have a 7.1.4 setup with Reference Premiere. I've got the 8060s up front and in the back. I've got surrounds up, the wide dispersion surrounds up on the wall. I was able to wire the house before it was finished. So I've got 4 15-inch subs up front. I've got a 12-inch sub dedicated to the surround. So I've got, I've kind of overcome the standing room. The standing waves or room modes, by spreading out the subs. I'm a believer in multiple subs. That's my solution for room correction. I know a lot of the AVRs have it built in, but I also test product in here. So I'm testing some of the newer product. Over this wall here along the window, that's actually a 2-channel setup. So I've got a couch over there. So I sit over there for 2 channels. So it's kind of a multi-function room. That's why I can't turn everything on at once. But I use separate power amps up front for the amp channels. And I use an AVR as a processor, a higher end AVR. And so in the rack over there, I've got a couple UHD players. I've got Blu-ray players. But of course, I have on the very top, you can see, it's that little thing on the top there. That's a Apple 4K, because I have to test the streaming function of Netflix and Tidal. So testing the Atmos that everyone is now able to enjoy from streaming. So I also have a NVIDIA Shield up there, which is a cool product too. But I just have a lot of gear in here. Actually, you see 2 floor standers over here. You asked, so now I'm telling you. I actually have a couple setups with 2 different amps, so I can compare different models, A/B. So it's over the top, and the girls come in here and they're like, "Dad, you're running out of room. What are you doing? You can't bring any more stuff home." So now I've branched out into their little where they watch their movies. They're testing a product now in their system for me. So they got a little forum. What did you do? So Mike, they're part of the beta test team. So
good. I appreciate that.
All right. So a general Klipsch question, and then we'll get into some specific home theater questions. So Derek Button asked, why does Klipsch continue with the horn-based design approach?
Oh, man. Why doesn't everybody is the question. So I'll answer that. Sort of what Mark was talking about earlier with the idea of a highly efficient, highly dynamic speaker. You cannot achieve that without using a horn. And at the very least, a horn-loaded HF, a horn-loaded tweeter. You're obviously better off getting into horn-loaded mids and horn-loaded LFs, just like our Klipsch horn. But there's a trade-off in terms of cost, obviously, for product. But we always will design speakers with horn-loaded HFs because you get that dynamics or that dynamic increase. You get that efficiency increase. And frankly, focusing the sound at the listener is paramount to a true cinematic experience. So I can't tell you what we'll be doing 50 years from now, but in the foreseeable future, we will not make a speaker without a horn-loaded tweeter.
It's a great question. I mean, the laws of physics have not changed. Paul Klipsch, what he discovered, in the 40s, really probably late 30s, was this correlation between high efficiency and low distortion, that they're inversely proportional. all things being equal in objective measurements, the same driver mounted on a baffle and then the same driver mounted in a horn, he measured a 15 decibel improvement in efficiency. John, I don't know if we ever covered this when you came to visit us, but this is fundamental to the Klipsch horn itself. What was more interesting to him, I mean, the improvement in efficiency, 15 decibels is an order of magnitude and a half in sound, right? But what he discovered in those measurements was he got an improvement of almost 20 decibels of reduced distortion, which was like, it was eureka. You know, there's this inverse relationship. So that is the core tenet of Klipsch design philosophy, and this absolute minimization of distortion in a loudspeaker. And loudspeakers are the culprit in a system. They're the ones that they're the bad apple, you know? So if you get the distortion minimized, reduce it, get it out of the range of really audibility or perceptibility by the human ear, you're going to enjoy the sound. So Mike's point, you know, I liked his answer when he said, why doesn't everybody? Well, it's difficult. It's very difficult. You know, the science that goes into it, math, 7.5 decades of research and development and blood, sweat, and tears, really, and experience. And some of our most experienced people down in Hope, Arkansas, and brilliant younger guys up in Indianapolis that are doing state-of-the-art evolutionary and revolutionary development. We're not sitting on the laurels that Paul Klipsch established. We are continuing to evolve the technology. And I think that's what keeps us on the radar for these audiophiles and reviewers too, that they think they know what horn loudspeakers are about. And then they get some of our newer, like reference premieres, or even some of our heritage stuff that we're evolving, I should say, like the Heresy 4, the Cornwall 4, the Forte 3, the Klipsch horn, AK6, the La Scala AL5. You know, we got this new reference premiere. And when they get these little bookshelves, and Leon, you know, the RP600M, right? How many?
RP600s. Wow.
Right. You know, so when they get them and they listen to them, they're like, oh, we thought we knew what horn loudspeakers were about, but this is a new chapter. Truly, it's the 21st century. And I'm thrilled with what the RP line does for customers who don't want to get into heritage, because it's like the modern iteration that you can live with all the benefits that Mike spoke about. Mike's, you know, in the middle of that. I mean, we've been working together. I mean, he is a senior product manager, so he is in the heart of development for all of this stuff. And, you know, when we say we have made improvements, this is truly something worth announcing. I mean, we're conservative about that stuff. We're serious about that stuff. And what's been nice about Audio Vice, you guys, when we started the partnership, you guys immediately got it. Leon, you know, you're so respected in the industry. And when you were giving us the feedback, we're just like, oh, this is beautiful. This is why we do this. This is why we do it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah,
I remember. Go ahead, Mark.
Sorry, Jonathan. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when we were there and we were able to see some of the I guess the Paul Klipsch Hall of Fame, if you will. What was the quote that he had? It was something like, for our speakers to sound any better, the laws of physics would need to change. I'm that wrong, but it was something like that.
Yeah, for his theories about acoustic research to be disproven, the laws of physics would have to change.
There it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That's absolutely true.
Come back to you, Mike. What were you gonna add?
Well, just to Mark's point, he mentioned that it's difficult to design a horn-loaded speaker. It's actually pretty easy to design a horn-loaded speaker, but it's very difficult to design a horn-loaded speaker that sounds good. And that's kind of the difference. There are a lot of other horn-loaded speakers on the market, some of which are pretty good, some of which are not good. I could build a speaker in my garage that had the benefits of a horn-loaded speaker. It was more efficient. I could control the directivity, but to make that sound pleasing to the human ear, that's where our sound engineers really excel.
Yeah, that's a great point. Leon, from your experience, anything to add?
Well, Mike is right. There's a ton of horn speakers on the market, and there's a lot of kind of niche guys building $200,000 pairs of horn speakers in Europe in the garage. They take them to Munich, or used to sell one pair.
Oh yeah.
But They're fun to see them. But there's very few brands that get it right, and it engages you in the music. And you think about it. When have you been to a concert that did not have horn speakers?
Right.
Probably never.
Never. Yep.
And there's just a few companies that are very successful in making that category of product out there. It does take a ton of R&D to get it right.
Yeah.
The example I always use, guys, is Jonathan, we keep talking over each other. I'm sorry. I'll just real quickly on the example I always like to use in Indianapolis. We're famous for the Indy 500, right? At the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They outfitted the entire Motor Speedway with Klipsch speakers, the grandstands, the luxury suites, because we're one of the only speaker brands that can overcome the sound of 30 Indy cars going around a track at 230 miles an hour, which is absolutely deafening. And our speakers can overcome that sound and still be intelligible and still be clean. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, that's a great point. I was going to say, if you want to see Leon excited about a pair of speakers, we posted our review that we did on the RP600M. So that's part of the giveaway, obviously. But those sound great. I mean, they're one of my favorite pair of speakers that I've had the chance to.
Money, they're amazing. That if you're just starting out and want a great little speaker to get started with, buy that, a little Cambridge integrated amp or something, and you are done.
You're off to the races, right? Mark, coming back, you made the comment about how you're a big believer in multiple subs. We had a question from, I guess it's Robert McCurry. Tell us the reason for why you would have multiple subs, and we'll go around the horn here.
Great question. And a lot of these new AVRs have this microphone auto calibration where you put it in your seating position, and then it listens to all the channels, and it tries to smooth everything out, get the levels matched, which you can certainly do manually in your AVR. You can go in and adjust the levels yourself, get a little sound level meter app on your phone. It's easy. They're typically free. You can each, get a measuring tape out and measure the distance. You can do it yourself. And there are a couple points I'm going to make about subs. So the dimensions of your room, the math, if they're even ordered dimensions, like let's say it's an 8-foot ceiling, it's 16 feet wide, and it's 32 feet deep. Those are even order dimensions, and you're going to have a lot of very strong peaks and valleys in your room. And then wherever your chair is, you might say, I like my chair here, but guess what? You could be in a null at a deep frequency, like let's say 40 hertz or 35 hertz, or somewhere in the deep frequencies, and there's nothing you can do. If you turn the sub up, it's maybe in the corner up there. You're turning it all the way up. I'm not getting any bass in my chair. So one thing you can do, which is pretty practical, if you have one sub, I'm not saying everybody has to go buy 2 subs, but I'll address that in a second. But easy way to do it is get your test tone going, put your sub in your chair right here. Put your sub in your chair.
And you do the subwoofer crawl.
Yeah. Go around the room, take your sound level meter, measure, and put it on the C weighting, because that's a full pink noise, mic setting, which means full range. White noise is bass limited, but pink noise C weighting is A is for OSHA. Noise measurements at CES, Mike, when we're playing our music too loud at the booth, and I tell them I have to educate the CES cops about A weighting versus C weighting. I send them on their way, because we're not offending anyway, I'm sorry. So OSHA versus home theater testing. So then you do the sub crawl, as Leon said, and I'm sure you guys have all kinds of tutorials on this, but you basically listen for where the sub is. The bass energy is strongest along the wall, and it very likely, it might be a little loud in the corner, but maybe go inside, not totally in the corner, but maybe a little closer to TV, and you might find it sounds the smoothest there. Put your sub there. So that's the acoustic relationship from where your sub is positioned to your chair. So you'll get good bass energy in your listening position. So that's step one with a single sub. Now, if you have a large room and you have a lot of family members, you want everybody to enjoy sound, equally from the system. That's where an additional sub, like over here on this side, spreads the bass energy out even more, and it smooths out the room modes that one sub might be activating, but the other one is overcoming. Okay, so smooth bass, both subs working together to fill the room with even sound. And I would add this about horn loaded design. Mike talked about it. control directivity from a Klipsch speaker, it's roughly like from our reference premiere, it's about 90 degrees horizontally, about 90 degrees vertically. So it's focusing the sound. If you're using Klipsch speakers, you already have a measure of room correction. Okay. So what that means is you're not aggravating reflections. You're focusing the sound already into the primary listening area. You're not aggravating reflections in your room. So you're already delivering the sound of the soundtrack. You're being taken to the acoustic space of the soundtrack or the concert video or your favorite music, and you're really minimizing the effects of your room. So that's even another reason where the auto room correction can help. Sometimes, I don't know if you guys have a strong opinion about this, but I've heard some that are better than others, and I tend to do it myself, do the level matching, because I also like to turn the center channel up maybe a decibel or two, just to give you the absolute clarity versus all the other channels. I tend to crank the height channels to make sure they're to the fronts. So when you're doing an Atmos setup, make sure the levels are really matched. And then, of course, this is your final measuring device. Use your ear. Your ear, it's your ear, your hearing mechanism. Everyone's is a little different. Play it so that it's pleasing to you. So anyway, that's the multiple sub theory. Now in this room, yeah, it's even a little more extreme, but I have room for them, and I try to test them. And here's another benefit of that. You don't have to crank them up. You can turn them down, and they're working together, which again reduces the effort to physically move the air. And at 20 hertz, okay, some of these movies, some of these modern movies, they like the new, Rise of Skywalker, there's some ridiculous deep bass. And when you're trying to move that much air, you're actually really moving a wall of air, and you're producing a shuddering effect, in those deepest frequencies where you feel it. You're not hearing it, you're feeling it. And when you have a couple subs doing that, it's much more realistic. It's just more efficient. It's just more efficient. And then, of course, lower distortion. So we believe in low distortion bass extension. Because if the bass is boomy or just kind of distorted, it's not pleasing. So that's why I do subscribe to the multiple subwoofer theory. And even a couple 10-inch subs are going to really give you great performance. You don't have to go wild, with the multiple giant subs. You could do a couple smaller subs that are really effective. So that's it in a nutshell.
In a nutshell. Leon, how many subs do you have in your home theater, and what are your thoughts on multiple subs?
Well, you can't live without them, and I have 5.
So I guess he also subscribes to your belief there, Mark.
I do.
You and Mark should move in together.
Yeah,
we're the same club.
Huge difference. It can't, you can't fix a null. No room correction will ever fix a null. And as you said, multiple subs will change that. And if you put a sub over here, it may actually have a peak where the other sub has a null, and things get evened out. So and the more you have in the room, the more it smooths itself out. We've got one guy who has 9 subwoofers in his home theater.
You're paying him too much.
Mike, anything to add?
No, I feel like I can't add anything. I only have 2 subwoofers. Sorry, guys. But I did that to Mark's point and Leon's point. I did that very intentionally to even out a null in my room. We have a sort of a great room where we have the home theater set up, and there's just a massive null where we wanted the seating position. So throwing another sub even that out quite a bit.
If you have questions on home theater in general, Leon, you wrote a great home theater's buyer's guide. It was almost probably your life thesis, if you will, right? That went into that. So that's a great piece of content.
It was a lot.
Yeah, it is a great piece of content. If you want to know about home theater, about designing home theater, obviously you can give us a call. You can chat with our experts at Audio Advice and audioadvice.com. And then we also have a home theater design tool that we're incredibly proud of that we launched back this summer, and we've had incredible feedback from that. And if you've entered this giveaway, obviously you've had the chance to experience it firsthand, and that'll kind of help walk through your room size, where you can position your seats, your speakers, subwoofer, and so forth. So check that out if you have a chance. We have a question from Ryan, and he asks, how would the Heritage speakers fit into your home theater setup? And if so, which ones would you recommend?
Well, the Heritage line was the original home theater. It was designed. The Klipsch horn especially was designed to mimic the performance of the cinema. The early cinemas that Mark mentioned earlier. So I actually saw a question earlier asking about the difference between sort of cinema sound and music sound, or the difference in our design philosophies, and they're the same. We truly believe if a speaker sounds great for music, it's going to sound great for movies, and vice versa.
Exactly.
Like we said earlier, the laws of physics don't change. What is pleasing to the human ear, that doesn't change. So you should be able to get the same listening experience out of music or cinema. But the Heritage line, again, the original home theater, we have customers that use Klipsch horns up front, left and right, La Scalas as the center channel, and then Klipsch horns in the back is your rear surrounds or side surrounds. So we have quite a few Klipsch files that use Heritage all over the room, all over the theater, for a full, true cinema performance.
And you got some great products in the THX series, that could match up for Atmos and surrounds too. Yeah, it's very impressive to get 3 really good horn speakers across the front. That's go with a pair of Cornwalls, Heresies, Forte.
We just had a customer that we worked with, actually from Arkansas, that bought primarily a Klipsch home theater system. It was a really, really nice setup. And he had, how many Cornwalls did he have in that system? Do you remember?
It was 3 Cornwalls across the front.
Cool. So that's what you were speaking to. It was a heck of a system, right?
Acoustically transparent Stewart screen. And that's going to rock.
So here's an interesting little trivia thing about Paul Klipsch, going back to the days of Klipsch horns, and then how he developed the Bell, and then the La Scala, and also the Heresy. So sometimes in rooms where the Klipsch horns are far apart, the way they're towed in, depending on the distance and your listening distance, there could be maybe a little bit of a hole in the middle. And he actually developed a center channel before home cinema started. It was really 3-channel stereo, and that center channel bridged between left and right stereo. So when home theater kicked off, I guess it was really the late 80s, early 90s. ProLogic, you guys remember Laserdiscs and VHS Hi-Fi, and ProLogic, and then THX came in with the dynamic decorrelation of the mono surround channel. I'm going a little deep on the surround history, but I remember as a dealer, we had Fortes, and then later Klipsch came out with this monster center channel called the Academy, and it had the output to keep up with the Fortes, which were about 99 decibels with 1 watt. So people were coming to us saying, "Hey, I want to use this in my home theater. These are just mind-blowingly powerful with my music, but what could this do in my home theater?" So we actually got into home theater as a necessity. And from what Mike was saying, and Leon, all you guys, the history of the power and detail of a horn-loaded system, and how it was like a no-brainer for a killer home theater system. So that's how we got started. It's also the reason we got into the subwoofer business. The subwoofers in the marketplace couldn't keep up with the output levels of the Heritage products. So we had to get into developing our own subs that had high output capability. So we were kind of like, we got to do it. Then the surrounds. So anyway, I think I just love talking about the history of home theater and how Dolby has, continued to develop. I love talking with Brett Crockett with Dolby. He's just a brilliant guy, their VP of R&D. And I consider him a good friend. And by the way, the Dolby people really enjoy this, our Atmos products. But, the Heritage products, are still a statement system. And you guys, as a Heritage dealer, it could be fun to put together a Heritage theater system for your customers. Just a little thought, but it absolutely can be done. And should be.
We have a dedicated Klipsch room in the Raleigh showroom, so come check that out if you're in the area passing through the beach or to the mountains in the south. We are happy to give you a full demo of the Heritage collection that you can see firsthand. For folks who are maybe newer to home theater, that maybe don't have the room to have, multiple subs. Maybe they're moving out of an apartment for the first time, getting their first place, where they're far enough from their neighbor so they're not pissing them off all the time. What would you guys recommend that they look at in terms of, a framework for that first home theater, or maybe something that they can buy that's incremental that they can step up, into, that's part of a larger holistic system?
Yeah.
Mike, you got this one. Man,
so I don't want to push anyone towards this specifically, but I oversee product development for our sound bars, and I think sound bars are a killer way to get into a really, really great home theater without breaking the bank. It's an all-in-one system. It's plug and play. You get it home and it sounds great. Nowadays we have wireless surround systems that we can add to our sound bars. The Cinema 600 that just launched a couple months ago, it's been getting great reviews, and the surround 3s that go along with that really provide that in-home cinema experience. Other than that, take a look at anything Audio Advice is doing. You guys are not just selling the right product, but you have sort of the expertise, not to make this an infomercial, but I think what you guys do so well is bringing that expertise to, the new home theater customer, the new audiophile, getting them kind of put in the right direction and matching up electronics with speakers really well.
Yeah, the other thing if you want to build a base to go with something bigger, is to do a small pair of the 600s to start with, a smaller center channel. Then later, when you're ready, you could move the 600s to the rear, get a pair of towers, bigger center channel, put the Atmos on top. Yeah. If you want to build something you could grow with, I might suggest that. That would require a home theater receiver, of course. Soundbars are a great solution for kind of soundbars have gotten to be amazing in quality, but to me, they still don't even come close to a good separate home theater in just terms of the immersion and experience.
Absolutely. Yep. Totally agree.
Yeah. Let's maybe you can mention the 5s as well, right? That's a good potential use case if you're in a multi-purpose room that maybe has an open format. The 5s could work well as a replacement maybe for a soundbar option. Tell us maybe about your thoughts around that,
Mike.
Sure. The 5. I was waiting for. I saw you were getting ready to jump on it, but
I'm always ready.
I'll save everyone another calculus and physics lesson from Mark. The 5s are our most recent powered monitors, exclusive to Audio Advice. Frankly, one of the best sounding powered monitors on the market, but the really killer feature with those is that they have HDMI ARC, and powered monitors for such a long time were a 2-channel system, or were really meant for 2-channel, meaning music playback or music listening. The 5s are still great for that. They have USB high def in or high res in, optical and analog, even a phono input. But the addition of that HDMI ARC makes them perfect for a home theater system. And if somebody wants to get into really, really high-end, really premium home theater for under $1,000, the 5s are the way to go. And they're beautiful. They have real wood veneer cabinets, hand-painted matte black cabinets, just like the Heritage line. And they take a lot of acoustic design principles from the Heritage line as well. So we kind of consider them a first or second cousin of the Heritage line in the 5s if you wanted to get into that type of acoustic package, that type of form factor in a more modern piece of technology.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been huge fans. We were literally blown away when we heard it. Mark, anything to add on that?
Well, that's another good way to go, because with the HDMI ARC, your TV remote's going to control their volume, so you're all set to go, and they're great. You guys should make a little hub that lets you do 5 of those around the room, and that would be really cool.
Don't give us any ideas, Leon. We have to pay you $1 for each one we sell.
Nice. Maybe a high-level question. This was from, let me get to it here, from Jesse. Do you ever sacrifice sound in the hunt for efficiency? And if so, how do you find the balance between the two if you get too close?
Ooh, that's a one for Mark.
Absolutely. I would say, well, absolutely not. And here's why. when you have a let's just talk about the titanium tweeter that's mated to the reference premier horn. What our approach does is it reveals inadequacies in any drivers that we may be testing or developing, and it actually forces us to refine them to a further degree than would otherwise be necessary in a typical direct radiating high frequency driver. In other words, that diaphragm really needs to move as a perfect piston, and it needs to actually really be devoid of resonances that affect the audible spectrum. And we've done some other things, like the rear airspace. It's a vented chamber, so it's all about having linear travel. And something that Mike's going to accuse me of another physics lesson here, but what's interesting about when you have a horn loaded to a small diaphragm, that air in the horn actually acts as a damping factor on the driver itself, which can have benefits actually to sound quality. But before that ever happens, our engineers use custom measuring techniques to evaluate what that driver is doing by itself before it's ever loaded to a phase plug and then eventually to a horn. So that's where, when we say there's a lot of it's complex, the science, the measuring, the validation, the listening, the refinement going back. I mean, I remember Chris Perrins, there's a call out to you, when we were doing some of the original design of this high frequency driver with the new phase plug and horn. He had on his desk 85 versions of the phase plug. And if you looked at all of them, you're like, hey, you got 85 samples, they're all the same. No, these are all different. And you would only know or see that difference under a microscope. So that's the level of perfectionism that really comes from, Paul Klipsch himself. Roy Delgado is the same way. And all the refinements that are happening in the new heritage products, down to the finest detail. So do we sacrifice? No, actually, it's in the pursuit of, if it's not just high efficiency, again, it's low distortion and refinement. And that's what you hear in the new Klipsch. They have to be better. I mean, technology in materials, in design, craftsmanship is still a big story for us. We're handcrafting these products. We don't skimp. I mean, when you get Cornwalls home, how many pounds are they? I mean, they're 100 and something. I mean, it's a 2-person unpack. I mean, the Klipsch horns are definitely a 2, maybe 3-person unpack. Invite your buddies over. Don't give them the beer until the speakers are unpacked and they're perfect. Okay, but it's in the pursuit of really perfection, because when a speaker like the Klipsch horn delivers 105 decibels with 1 watt, it needs to be bliss. And, something that Paul Klipsch himself said, another great quote of his, is what the world needs is a great sounding 5-watt amplifier, because it's the first watt or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 that you're listening to most of the time. So it's that quality. Quantity, yes. You can crank up Klipsch and they taunt you a little bit because it's so clean. How loud will it go before police are called or your neighbors at your front door? You should have invited them over for the movie. That's your mistake. But anyway, party will end because the police show up. I say this all the time. And it's not because the system failed, it's because the police showed up. But, that's a good question. And what people may not realize is, and we get this question a lot, like, the science, there's much more science into what that horn is doing at the frequencies that are dedicated to that driver. And because of that complexity, it takes us a while to finish our products, voice them in for the marketplace. And then when they're in the marketplace, they have this long life because there's nothing out there like it. Nothing can do what the Klipsch can do. And then it kind of creates we have a big fan base. And if you live with Klipsch, it's kind of hard to try something else out because it's just like, oh yeah, those others, they're just kind of lifeless compared to the Klipsch, I sound biased. I apologize. I tend to be, I'm wearing this, so, but it's true. And but it's a great question because, Klipsch, we don't have our own sound. And I've heard about, oh, horns, they're colored. Well, not Klipsch. I mean, we are going for the natural sound, neutral sound. We want to reproduce, I've been listening to Haley Williams, from Paramore. That's one of my demo tracks. There's a new Taylor Swift that I like. I'll admit it, Katy Perry. I mean, there are a couple new tracks, great recordings, female vocal tracks that reveal how accurate, yes, I'm saying accurate, with the new Klipsch. And you have to hear it to really get it. I mean, you can read publications for 20, 30 years ago where horns, poorly designed horns, like, Mike said, there were plenty of them. But why is Klipsch successful? It's, I think, because we are furthering the art, and we are producing product for people that love music. They love quality. They are in love with music. And when you listen through Klipsch, you fall in love with your old music and new music. So I better stop.
Anything to add quickly, and we'll try to get one or two more quick ones in.
I don't know what we could possibly say that Mark did not just cover.
So this next question is this was our winning question picked from the marketing team at
cool.
So this comes from Sean Purvis. He says, when Klipsch is designing a lineup of speakers like the reference premieres, what is your primary focus? Klipsch is known in the industry for your rock and roll sound, but clearly a great home theater products too. Do you put more emphasis on one or the other? Thanks for the great question, Sean. We'll go ahead and announce you as the winner of our the reference premiere 8060 pair. So congratulations. Thanks for the question. And then Mark, I'll turn it over to you for your thoughts.
Great question, Sean. I wish we had an answer for you. No, I'm kidding. So I think we get associated with rock and roll, and we kind of have this rock and roll feel to our acoustic signature, because our speakers, being horn loaded, they're able to represent that dynamic range very well, and sort of that mid-range hype. For Latin, Mark's going to kill me for saying hype, but that mid-range clarity and that mid-range sort of power that you hear. So it's sort of a chicken or the egg conversation between the rock and roll and the Klipsch acoustic signature. I will say, when we go into designing a speaker, it's not necessarily to represent one type of music better than another, and it's not to represent one type of amplifier over another. It is to bring whatever the next generation of that acoustic signature of the Klipsch horn loaded technology is to market to our customers. And we want to bring, frankly, the best listening experience in the world to everyone that buys one of our speakers, whether it's a $300 soundbar or it's a $5,000 reference premiere surround system. So I can't say for certain that we try to represent a specific genre. I know that Chris Perrins, our chief acoustic engineer that Mark mentioned earlier, he doesn't listen to a lot of rock and roll. He's into a lot of sort of synthesizer heavy music, a lot of, I shouldn't say EDM, but a little bit more electronic stuff. My gosh, James, who I can't think of his name right now, but there's an electronic artist that Chris is a big fan of. I know listens to quite a bit. And so to say that the designs are made with rock and roll in mind, I think would be a misrepresentation of our design process. It's really, it comes from a frequency response and power handling and efficiency measurement. And then the speakers then become suited to specific genres.
Much more holistic.
Yeah, I would say, Mike, that sums it up. I think you just basically take those 4 Klipsch principles: the high efficiency, control directivity, dynamic range, and a flat response, and you just try to design the best speaker you can for the price point you're trying to hit.
Exactly.
It meets all those criteria.
Exactly. So something I do want to call out: the 5s and other powered monitors sort of give us an advantage over more traditional passive speakers like the reference premiere line, because we know the signal chain from start to finish. I mean, aside from the source, but once it enters the amplifier, we know what the amplifier is doing to it, and we know how the amplifier responds and how that drives the transducers in the speaker. So that does give us a little bit of an advantage, where with a passive speaker system, you're trying to design a speaker that works well with as many amplifiers as possible, right? You don't know what those amplifiers are. You don't know what the specifications of those amplifiers are going to be. So I sort of bringing this up because I saw somebody ask the question earlier, but it does kind of bring us to a new generation of speaker design and tuning. And we're able to do things with DSP because we own the entire signal chain that we're not able to do with passive speakers.
Last question before we announce the winner of our big giveaway. So not for any confusion, we had a question for our giveaway for the best question. And then in a minute, we'll announce the winner of our home theater package. But just last question, I know 2020 has been a tough year for folks. We're almost through it here. As you look out into the horizon, what can you guys share that's maybe in the future for 2021 for the team at Klipsch?
Yeah.
Some product that I'm testing in here.
More speakers. I bet there'll be more speakers.
Well, you know what? I'm going to call them the shapeshifters, because you guys, and I don't know if I'm pointing to Leon and Mike in my screen, they're down here, but yeah, wherever you guys are, you had this conversation between component and soundbar. And I would say that what we're bringing out in the spring are shape-shifting systems that they don't know they're in a soundbar configuration. They think they're component speakers. They think they're a 5.1.4 Atmos system. It's just that we shaped them to be very convenient for people to place them in their room. Don't tell it it's a soundbar because it doesn't think it's a soundbar. 1,200 watts of total power, 12-inch sub, front and rear firing, Atmos height channels, horn loaded, goodness. Don't get me started, but I love this product, and I'm pounding on it in here. I've got the separate system in here, and often I'm coming in here going, hey, all I have to do is turn on the TV and it's going. That's easy, as amplifier, smart remote, processor, disk, this, that, the other, boom, and I'm going with Netflix. It's awesome. So, but then again, this is for a customer who they love their movies, they love their music. Maybe they have Tidal and Atmos or whatever, and all the streaming services that come into the TVs these days with one connection, an HDMI connection, and that's it. And you can have killer performance, killer audio performance without all the complexity, without all that. But it needs to be the Klipsch if you want that performance. That sounds like a commercial.
Price range. Could you put a number on that?
Jonathan, on the price range, you said?
Yeah.
For the new bars, yeah. So as Mark mentioned, cat's out of the bag, and it has been for a while. After the first of the year, the Cinema Series sound bars will be expanded up to the Cinema 800 Dolby Atmos bar and the Cinema 1200, as Mark mentioned, and those price points are $799 for the Cinema 800 and $1499 retail for the Cinema 1200, which is a true 5.1.4 Atmos system, 1,200 watts of system power, 12-inch sub, which no one else is doing in the soundbar market today. So truly bringing that Klipsch cinema experience to the soundbar customer.
Yeah, and you will be able to get those both at audioadvice.com as soon as they ship, right? So Leon, as always, thanks for joining us. Mike, it's been a ton of fun. You guys are always a lot of fun. I will say, just a quick plug, if once the world is hopefully back to normal and we're able to get back out, these guys are two of the best that I've ever seen in the industry in terms of giving an audio demo or home theater demo. So if you're at a Rocky Mountain or Expona or maybe CES in the future, definitely take advantage of trying to get a demo from these guys. They are great and fantastic at it. So thanks for joining us, guys.
We'd love to come visit you. We'd love to come visit you for another Music Matters. We love it.
Yeah. In the future. We've had Mark join us at the last one, and so hopefully we'll be able to have another Music Matters in both Raleigh and Charlotte in the not too distant future. We'll keep our fingers crossed. So let's announce the winner of our Klipsch Home Theater 5.1.4 Dolby Atmos system. So we'll get a little virtual drum roll here. So our winner is Zane Hudson from the state of Alabama. So congratulations, Zane. You are the winner. We will be reaching.
Roll Tide.
You get an early Christmas present, holiday present here coming real soon from our team. Thanks to Klipsch for partnering with us on this giveaway. It's been a ton of fun. As always, guys, it's been a lot of fun. You guys have been great. Thanks to everyone who has joined us. Hope you guys have a great holiday and a very happy new year. We will see you guys soon. And we will just real quickly will announce, and we'll be live here momentarily, our giveaway for next month, actually next year in January, which we will be partnering with the team at Focal on another exciting home theater giveaway. So thanks again to our friends at Klipsch. It's been a lot of fun. You guys have been great. And thanks to everyone who joined us. We will see you guys again next time. Thanks again.
Thanks everybody.
Appreciate it.